I'm so excited today to have Eric Burns on the podcast. Eric's the founder of Flowers Capital. He's a Cincinnati-based entrepreneur and commercial real estate professional. After graduating with a degree in finance and a short stint in the corporate world, Eric's first turning point came when he joined the Cincinnati Fire Department. Serving as a lieutenant for 17 years shaped his character. He gained many of his best values during that time, including accountability, honesty, and self-improvement. In 2013, Eric ventured into real estate investing. He honed his skills and built a successful residential real estate portfolio. His ability to identify promising opportunities and his acquired skill set made the transition into commercial real estate very logical. Driven by his passion for helping others to achieve financial freedom, Eric founded Flowers Capital. With a focus on quality, diversification, and long-term success, he aims to guide investors toward a brighter financial future. Eric, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. It's great to be on. Thank you.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
Hey, Eric, I would love for you to share some of your story with our listeners. I hit some of the high points, but I'd love to hear more, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader.
Absolutely. Most of my development as a leader came as a lieutenant in the fire department. And it was honestly something I kind of had to sort out for myself. And they didn't do, at that time, it was long enough to go, they didn't do like officer training class or anything for us. And so we were kind of learning on the fly, kind of figuring out what worked. And, I just kind of had to muddle my way through it. So I figured out some ways not to do it. I also figured out some really, some good ways to really interact with my crews and the people that were working under me and really lead as and build a, kind of just build a really solid foundation of trust as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
Learning what not to do is pretty underrated in my opinion. I believe you can learn from anybody, sometimes what to do and sometimes what not to do. I think that can be incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. And as as I'm making mistakes along the way, one of the things that people really responded to was just transparency and accountability. If I was wrong, if I didn't handle a situation correctly, I really went out of my way to remedy it at right away. And the way I did that was just admitting my own fault in the matter and just be committed to evaluate myself and change. And I think when people see you doing that you're holding yourself accountable, I think that's a standard that they pick up on and they start doing the same. And when they're getting when they're getting the honesty and they have a leader that they're looking to that's willing to make mistakes and fix them, then they're a lot more willing to do the same as well, I think.
Going from a lieutenant as a firefighter to real estate, that's a pretty big leap. What led you to such a dramatic career change?
Yeah, so I honestly had started a few side hustles over the years. That's just kind of something firemen do. And none of them really panned out. None of them kind of took off like I'd hoped, and really just looking to secure a solid financial future. And I was at the kitchen table and the guys were talking about their rental properties and it sounded like they were going well. And I thought, well, maybe that'll be my next thing. So I bought a student housing rental as my first property as a side hustle. And I didn't know how to be a landlord or anything like that. And I went ahead and figured that out and it went well. So then I just kind of kept going down the rabbit hole. I started renovating 2 families and things like that. And that's kind of when it hit me that I was really trading my time for money. And that's my last pivot into commercial real estate was kind of that realization. And I really kind of, took the leap just as the next right move. And that's kind of, the theme of my story. Every pivot I've had has just kind of been looking at the situation and looking at the next best move I can make. And, even if it's, maybe a little bit out of my wheelhouse, and, just kind of take the leap and learn. And, and that's kind of, and that's kind of how I niched down was, just kind of the next right thing over and over again. And really it's just, I think things work out if you're willing to step out of your comfort zone.
One of the things I appreciate is you often talk about failing forward and the importance of seeing failure not as the end of the road, but just as a part of the journey.
Absolutely. And I really enjoy reframing the failures as lessons. And I think it's perspective. And there's a lot of things I've done over the years that I can look back and say, oh man, that was a big mistake. I'd have done it different. Or I can say, whoa, that was a good learning experience. And, I didn't handle, I didn't handle this, this renovation right. And it took so long and it wasn't a mistake. It was just a learning lesson that I can move in, and move into the next one and just get a little bit better every time. Just by kind of not really just by not beating myself up and just being okay with not being perfect. And not that anybody likes to mess up and likes to fail, but if you're really kind of pushing yourself to a higher level and trying to excel in any area, it's just bound to happen. And you can look back and, and think you're a terrible person. Or you can look back and evaluate and just kind of look at the situation and be really neutral about your mistakes that you made, and don't take it personal, and just look back and say, hey, these are some areas that I can improve on, and do it. And then the next time you do, next time you do your next remodel, there'll be other things that come up that need improvement. And I think it's just that constant reevaluation of yourself, and not letting a failure keep you down, but using it as a way to, and to kind of just grow a little bit at a time over and over again.
Consistency. I like that. That's really good. So what moved you? You said the next right thing was commercial real estate. Talk me through that, because people who focus on residential, typically they don't see commercial as their next step. I'd love to hear how you made that determination.
Yeah. So I really try to be a lifelong learner, just in general. And I love going down and I love learning something new. And when I started looking into commercial real estate, I saw that it was scalable and that there was an opportunity to have passive income and really not have to trade my time for money. And a lot of the barriers of entry that would have kept me from it are eliminated by, being able to partner with really good sponsors and really good markets. I can get into markets all over without having to do the legwork necessarily to, get my market share or anything like that. But really the scalability and it seemed like the next right move, because I knew doing renovations and even with the contractor, it was really just a job. And I look back and I think about what I made hourly at my first job at the golf course when I was 13, all these years ago. And I'm doing the math and I thought, man, maybe I should go back to that job. I think $275 an hour is, beating what I got going on now. So, but yeah, just being curious led me to investigate commercial real estate. And then when I came to that realization, I was able to just kind of lean into that and keep learning a little more about. So I learned how to underwrite. Then I learned how to deal with brokers, and I learned about how to put together partnerships. And I realized that my skill set was really more complementary to raising capital for the other sponsors who were doing that way better than me, So being able to partner with them and partner with the right people, I think it gave me the ability to really grow in the commercial space rather than have to, really figure it out all on my own, because it can be overwhelming, or you can learn from other people, and it can be a lot steeper learning curve.
Well, and I think the people you surround yourself with contribute so much to your success or failure.
Mhm.
It's finding the right people to run with, the right people to learn from and learn alongside. Yeah. What has your experience been like with community or with other entrepreneurs, maybe in a mastermind or something like that?
Yeah, I love that question because I'm a huge proponent of masterminds and surrounding yourself with community. And when we're out doing our entrepreneurial thing, not everybody really understands us. They see us beating our head against the wall and they go, "Why are you doing this?" And then your kind of only answer is like, "Well, I bet on myself a long time ago and now I kind of don't know what else to do." But other people, other entrepreneurs get that.
Yeah.
So I'm in a mastermind. I've been in a few different ones, and every so often it's time to find a new one to grow into. And the
Yeah.
one I'm in now is just really a great group of people. They're supportive. It helps me hold myself accountable to the progress I'm making. And most of my sponsors that I work with have come out of masterminds specifically just by knowing people on a very organic level first.
Yeah.
And then knowing I want to work with them, and then their markets are always good and their deals are always good, so having that good sponsor relationship as the starting point really kind of lets that other stuff fall in place. But I think that any mastermind you're in, if it's the right one, if whether it's a general entrepreneurship one, whether it's commercial real estate in general, I think it steepens your learning curve so much, and you save years of trying to figure stuff out on your own. And just having being surrounded with great people is an ancillary benefit.
I would agree. I mean, the mastermind that I'm a part of personally has helped me to go so much farther than I think I would have gone to this point in my business, because of the people around me who do speak those words of encouragement and challenge, who provide that accountability, who are going to ask questions, that maybe nobody else is asking.
Mm-hmm. And they serve as a great example. And I always like when you're picking a mastermind, always find one where you're humble enough to ask the stupid questions. Yes. But if you find a mastermind where you can ask them and the other members don't make you feel stupid, you're onto something because you're with people that want to grow with you.
That's right. So well said. So well said. So thinking about the entrepreneurial journey, I love how you said, you need to stop trading time for money. I think that is so often what I watch entrepreneurs do. They build their business, but really what they're doing is they're building a job. And
absolutely,
they're trading their 9 to 5 for a 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. job. And you're working harder and longer than ever before, but you're not seeing the reward. You're not seeing the fruit. And so often the clarity that comes from setting goals is a big piece of that. What does goal setting look like for you?
So another question I love, I set huge goals for my 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I read a great book, Be Your Future Self Now by Benjamin Hardy makes a great point regarding goal setting. And that being that your 10-year goal should seem unachievable because your current self, it is unachievable. But if you start pursuing your goals, and even consider them as hurdles because you're going to hit them and then you're going to need something bigger. But my 5-year self will be so much more capable that 10-year goal will not seem as daunting. And it might be too small. I might have to reset it at 5 years. And it's just really, I think when you do set those huge goals, it puts everything else in perspective. All the little things you're working on today, you have an idea of what your big goal is, and you go, okay, so it's just a little step right now. It's just one step in that direction rather than all consuming, on a daily basis. And to be able to just have that North Star and encourage me to do the daily steps, the monotonous things that, there's always the monotony that we don't like.
Always.
And another great book I read is mandatory reading for entrepreneurs out there is The E-Myth Revisited.
Such a great book.
Where, we were talking about entrepreneurs being unable to transition out of trading their time for money. And I highly recommend that book as mandatory reading because he does a really great job of explaining how a tradesman or the worker then all of a sudden has to be, the manager and then the business owner and just really take on a new role and a new mindset at every turn. And whether you're going completely passive in an investment like commercial real estate, or you're scaling your business, to be able to automate these things and free up your time and reallocate that either to the things that you excel at or to other things that matter too, like experiences and spending time with people and all these other things that time and money can afford you, really.
That's good.
So,
that's so good. When you think about your business and, the leadership that you are providing in your business right now, so many of us can see with clarity with other people's businesses, but we have trouble with our own. If I could snap my fingers and right now solve one problem in your business, what would you want that to be?
Oh, investor sentiment, 100%. 100% investor sentiment. Other than that, personally, definitely my organization, being able to just kind of comfortably manage a day without, going, oh man, I forgot something. And because that really kind of throws you off when you're doubling back and you forget something. So, but yeah, maybe be a little more organized and, things like that, track better too.
Absolutely. I love that. Your business requires you to lead at a higher level today, Eric, than it did 3, 4, 5 years ago. And that same thing is going to be true 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Uh-huh.
So how do you level up with the new leadership skills that your business is going to require you to have? How do you stay on top of your game?
Mm-hmm. So valuing my leadership, what I valued about my time in the fire department was that we were growing together and we were supporting each other. And to take that philosophy and say, whether I'm working with an investor or a sponsor, to just say, these are relationships that I want to grow in, and to use accountability, whether it's, just evaluating myself, and being able to grow along, or just saying, hey, I completely missed that email. I am, I need to be more organized, and take it to heart, be willing to change. But really, I enjoy looking at those partnerships and investor relationships as areas to grow in. So being able to write content and educate investors where they need it, and kind of just work through this together so they can become better investors. I can become a better capital raiser, and financial freedom's supposed to be fun. So if you're sitting there stressing about your passive investment, that kind of defeats the purpose. We want passive investment so we don't have to worry about that.
That's right.
So yeah, just being able to, take the loyalty, the honesty and things like that, and build legitimate relationships that we can grow together in.
That's really good. If we could go back in time and we could talk to Eric, who was the lieutenant in the fire department, knowing what you know now, what would you love to go back and tell yourself?
Don't hold things in. Don't let things simmer. If there's an issue, address it immediately. And I think that a lot of the mistakes I made early on was not being comfortable having hard conversations. And kind of what I changed, it was a couple years into my promotion, and I realized, if I have to sit someone down and talk about their performance and where they need to improve and why they're not doing a good job, it shouldn't be uncomfortable for me, because I'm doing the right thing. I'm being honest with them. And so they're aware, and they have the chance to improve. Where if you're not willing to have tough conversations like that as a leader, then it's really difficult to get people to the level and understand your expectations. And it shouldn't be uncomfortable for me, because that is my job. That's the right thing to do. If they're messing up like that and they're uncomfortable having that conversation, not my fault. You're the one messing up, right? I'm just here to let you know, and always offering a solution. And I always ended those conversations with, okay, so that's where we are. Like, what do you need from me to help you do this?
Yeah.
And brainstorm and let them know that it's not just me yelling at you, because I really wasn't a yeller at all. Occasionally I did, and I had to apologize for there were a couple times, but really, I wasn't that much of a yeller or dictator or anything like that. So I think being able to be approachable like that, I think people, really appreciated, and they knew I meant it when I said, what can I do to help you?
Yeah.
I had a track record of trying to do right by them. Then they know, okay, well, he does care. Like, that wasn't as bad of a conversation as it could have been. And really, when someone's there to push you and offer help and guidance, then it's a little bit easier to kind of go in and do that same thing, and really kind of evaluate and go from there.
That's good. I think you keyed in on something that I find with the clients that I work with that can be a real challenge, which is having difficult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And so often people will run to one of two extremes. They either run to avoidance and just hope that it will get better on its own.
Mm-hmm.
It never does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or in an unhealthy way, they just go into full-on attack mode. And that's not healthy either, because then you're creating an adversarial relationship.
Absolutely.
I love the way
you're
you
creating a
describe
relationship where they're not, you're really losing trust with them.
Yes.
And honestly, when I did go into nuclear mode or whatever, it was always because I let things simmer and I let them bother me, and I didn't address it right away. So seeing a problem and just stepping right in, getting after it and fixing it is what helped me really kind of develop as a leading from the front rather than being an reactionary, I think.
That's very good. If and to use the firefighting analogy, this is what I often use with clients. If your day as an entrepreneur is just moving from fire to fire, just putting out this fire, this fire, this fire, this fire, go to bed, get up tomorrow, do it all again, you are reacting. You are leading in a reactionary way. And there's a better way to be proactive, and helping people understand this and learn how to lead proactively, to pre-decide what your priorities are, to prioritize based on your long-term goals, not based on the fire of the moment or what somebody else thinks your priority should be.
Absolutely.
I think is one of the skills that is so important for business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being able to look at a situation, and if you can't identify what the expectations are really clearly, then it's likely that the people working for you don't know the expectations, and that's not fair either.
That's exactly right.
To be abundantly clear about what you're expecting, when you're expecting it, how you're expecting it. And I think that solves a lot of problems up front. So when you come in and have those hard conversations, they know what you want from them. And it's just a reminder. And it's really just a heads up and saying, hey, you can do a better job, and I want you to do a better job because you're better than that. And I know you can do a better job. And really taking that hard conversation and transforming it into a rhetoric where there's a spirit of support and honesty really went a long way with me as people were getting to know me, working for me, or just kind of understanding what I was about, and developing that trust moving forward also.
Love that. You've mentioned a number of books so far. I'm just curious, as somebody who is a continual learner, is there a book that's made a tremendous difference in your journey that you would recommend to the leaders who are listening? Hey, if you haven't read this one, check it out.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I know my go-to commercial real estate book was the best ever syndication book. So if you're looking at commercial real estate, that's kind of the playbook. Okay. As far as just kind of general books that, I've read all these initial real estate books. A lot of people say Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I don't think there was necessarily one book that changed my trajectory as far as that's concerned. But just being a lifelong, just really committing to learning more than one single book. Because there was always, even if it was a little bit redundant, there's always a little bit something you can find in it. And just always kind of be on the search for, learning something new. And And so it's something I enjoy. Definitely my favorite book's probably Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And it's a fiction, but still a great one.
I haven't read it. I got to check that one out.
It's wonderful.
Eric, this has been a fantastic conversation that's touched on so many different things. And I know our listeners are going to want to stay connected to you and continue to learn from you and more about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. What is the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. Aside from LinkedIn, you can go to flowerscapital.com, and there's actually a free article on 12 pitfalls to avoid in your next real estate deal to kind of wade your way through challenging times,
Love that. We'll have those links in the show notes.
Perfect.
Eric, thank you so much for your time and your generosity today and sharing from what you've learned so far.
Thank you very much. I had fun. Thank you.